Hey, good morning, guys. Today we're going to talk about the actual installation of tires. I found this video clip that is extremely informative on the process, but it is not narrated. So I'm going to go through the video with you and just talk about some things. It's got some background music, so I'm going to turn that down. So as we mentioned yesterday with changing a tire, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have necessary safety equipment in place. Obviously, we probably don't need pylons or road cones, but get that tractor ready by making sure it's on a stable surface. So they're going to chock the wheels. They're using actual manufactured chocks to do so. And then this is the bottle jack that I mentioned yesterday. To expand the surface area of that bottle jack pedestal, they're going to put it on a chunk of wood, and then they are going to build a platform for these for the jack stand to sit on the tractor. So this is the jack stand. You can see at this point he's got the tractor lifted, and he's placing the jack stand, and the tire is off the ground. And this is all on this wooden stack of blocks. Slowly place the tractor on the jack stand. The end of this film is clipped off very fast, but what we have here is this thing called a lifting balloon. Essentially what happens is you can use it to drag around or to slightly lift a tire or a wheel or anything heavy for that matter. It's got a pressure rating of about 1,000 psi, so it can withstand quite a bit of air, and that can really help in easing mounting a big tire like this. So they go through the tools in each process. First thing you do is you release the air that's compressed in the tire by removing the valve stem. The inner part of the valve stem includes this small little, it's a little plunger that is the valve, and it holds the pressure back. Sometimes they fail, and sometimes it's a common place where we see an issue with a tire having a leak that we don't necessarily think of right off the bat. For large tires like this, the tool that this technician is using is called a bead breaker, and he's trying to avoid scuffing up the rim, so he's putting that rag underneath it. But it uses hydraulic pressure or air pressure to break that bead, that seal around the tire. And he's going to do the same thing on the back side. When installing and when removing tires, lubricant is essential in making that process easier because rubber has so much friction naturally. So we're back to using that bead breaker to break the tire seal bead. And then he uses this tool called a tire spoon in order to remove that seating of the bead. And then we're applying lubricant on the backside of the tire again. We have flat tire spoons, and because of the sidewall of an agricultural tire, because it is so pliable, it's fairly easy to use spoons to remove a tractor tire from the rim. The downside to tractor tires is their weight. They're extremely heavy, but for the most part, they are pretty easy to install given their pliable, large sidewall. We didn't really see much use of that tire balloon there just because they didn't really need it. Before installing a tire, you'll want to check and make sure that tire has no defects, that there's no cracks, there's no plugs, especially if it's a used tire that you're putting on. So they're checking the size of the tire, making sure that it matches up. They're inspecting the rim, making sure the size of the rim matches. This is an essential part of all tire installation, especially if it's a tubeless tire, or even if it's a tube tire. It's taking a wire brush or some sort of abrasive tool and removing any dirt, any debris from that bead seating area. If this wheel is going to utilize a tubed tire, you need to do this to the entire inside of the wheel. A small piece of rust can actually cause a puncture in that tractor tire tube, and if that should happen, you have to just repeat this process, and it would not be fun. So make sure if that you are changing the wheel, you're not only brushing or using some sort of abrasive disc to remove any debris from the bead seating area, but also from that inner wheel if there's a tube. Inspecting the tire again, installing a new valve stem. This should be common practice within tire installation. That valve stem, again, can fail. On tractor tires, valve stems are extremely expensive. You would think they're ridiculously priced. They're about $40 a piece. And the reason is because they're made of brass. And they're also precisely machined. So you're using a pretty expensive metal, and you're also utilizing technology that has to be pretty precise. So it is definitely a factor when you think about tire changing. When we utilize rubber valve stems on cars, because they are so common, they're fairly cheap. They're about 25 cents a piece. And I should say, not all valve stems on tractor tires are $40, but I have seen some that are. So I know some of you all are going to go look that up. You'll probably find some for $10 and $12. Next, we're applying lubricant to that bead seating area. And then for whatever reason, this video cuts off, but lubricant will go on both the inner edge of the rim as well as the inner edge of the bead. We will then place the tire back on the balloon. We'll use air pressure to lift that tire into place. And then we will use high pressure air to seat the bead. And this is where some people might think that using an accelerant like lighter fluid or ether and heat can seat the bead. That has been done. I have done it. There's videos all over the internet of using some sort of accelerant and a flame to seat a bead. The downside is if you use too much, that tire can blow apart. I have also seen people use too much and just ignite the tire. They catch it on fire. So I would not recommend that, but in a bind, it's something that you can do. When I was working at the University of Kentucky, we had actually rented a skid steer from a local business, and the tire on the skid steer had arrived a little soft. And as we were running it, it had broken the seat on the bead, and we had a flat tire. So we brought an air compressor out there, and we could not get it to seat. So we put some starting fluid in that tire. We lit it with a torch, and then immediately used compressed air to fill up the tire. And it was fine. We went on about the job, but it is dangerous. I have also seen, in the event of using too much accelerant, the tire blow up. It causes rim damage, and then that becomes a projectile. And I think there have even been cases of people dying or being a fatal accident. So use caution is what I'm going to say. Today, I'm just going to outline some questions on the computer from this video clip about tire installation, and then that will wrap up this section of this class. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to email me.